on a sailboat here today because we want to talk about the winds, the four winds. Now, when we look at the points around a compass and when we run sailboats, we always reference where the winds are coming from. And so while I want to talk about the four winds, I want to do so because it relates so much to how most of us handle things as we live. Each of us, when we begin to look at the various obstacles that come into our life, must learn to deal with them. There are some days when it's grand and glorious, when the boat just runs beautifully before the wind and the wind is in the right direction and you can just make tracks. Well, in life some days, some years, it's like that too. But it's not how we handle the good days that determine how well we do in life. It's how we handle the bad days. It's how we handle the undesirable winds that come along. Anybody can sail a boat in good weather. I like to think of the north winds as, from 2 points of view, 2 reference points, let's say. One of which is the north wind that's within us. I call that the self-doubt, the things you and I question about ourselves and our ability. And then there's the wind that comes at you from other people. Both of them are blasts at you. And if you don't button up and put on your helmet and your hat and your gloves to keep warm, you're going to get frozen out or you're going to get scared out, especially if you're talking about the matters of life. Let's just take that first one for a moment. And that is that north wind that is self-created, one you and I create. It's built upon the doubts that we have in life. And I know I've talked with a lot of people and with these questions about whether they're smart. They always say, he's the smart one. I'm the dumb one. Well, it's kind of a cute way of downgrading yourself, but nevertheless, it's a north wind that causes you to question whether you can do big things. And if you allow other people to intrude in your life, to tell you that you can't, or you're not capable, or you haven't done it before, and let them take control of your life, you're going to spend your life like we do on a boat when the north wind is blowing, just buttoned up and hanging on, and you're going to go through life wondering what happened. All of us have north winds coming down on us every day. So you button up, you hang on while the north winds come, and you get ready for the better days. The east wind brings a change of weather. When you get an east wind, you learn to cope with it. You keep a little more crew on deck. You prepare for things that are coming, and so you can adjust to fast-changing conditions. But during our course of years in business, we've lived through wars. We have lived through recessions. We've lived through times of unemployment. We've lived through times when interest rates were approaching 20+ percentage points, when inflation was running into double digits. All of these things were occurring. And I found out one very simple thing. We had to go to work every day anyway. There's some days I just stop reading the paper. In fact, there's a lot of days I still stop reading the paper because half of it is filled with people guessing as to what they think is going to happen, and they always think on the black side, and therefore they're usually wrong. We look at the condition. We decide what's the worst that can happen, and then figure out how to get on with it. Unsettled conditions are unimportant because you have to go to work today anyway. And so what you do is make the best of every day with what you got because you don't control all those conditions. Today is the only day you have. Now is the only time you have to get on with your career. You're going to be older when the conditions are different, not necessarily better. But for you, this is the moment. Now, once you've endured the north and the east winds, the temptation is when you get a southerly wind to get too comfortable. So we have to learn to cope with the warm, balmy winds because they're the mañana winds. They're the winds that tempt us into putting off till tomorrow what we ought to be doing today. So don't let this wind destroy you, even though it's so pleasant and so comfortable. These are the days to make time on the competition. Well, let's talk about the west winds. Around here, the west winds, we call them the wonderful winds. They're favorable. They're usually nice and comfortable. They're steady. They're not overly strong or short. You can just kind of move along in the westerlies. And so it is, you see, in life that you have to deal with the bad winds and overcome that lulling wind so that when the favorable winds come, you can take them to your destination and you can win the prize, or you can win the game, or you can win in business by using that wind. But as I said before, everybody's going to be moving on that wind. It's how you've coped with the other winds so that you are in the right position to take advantage of the weather when it breaks. But you know, we look around us and you'll see all sorts of favorable westerly winds if you start to listen for them. As I said to you when we talked about the north winds, how easily it is we listen to those people who discourage us, who say, you can't do that, you can't do this, what makes you think you can do that? At the same time, other people are saying, I believe in you, you can do it, you've got the ability, and you tend to not listen to that. So you've got to tune in now as listening and looking for all the favorable conditions.